Did you know that the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, made a cameo in a 2017 Turkish rom-com? In the scene, two Turkish guys approach him asking for favors. One guy tells him he wants to add a floor to his home, while the other is trying to obtain a permit to open a restaurant. And Adams responds,
"You guys are from Turkey. Brooklyn loves Turkey. Brooklyn is the Istanbul of America."
In an ironic twist of events, in late 2023, FBI agents raided Mayor Adams's and many of his associates' residences to seize phones, laptops, tablets, and other documents. He is facing multiple federal charges including corruption and bribery involving Turkish government influence. According to prosecutors, Adams accepted over $100,000 in bribes from Turkey to facilitate the opening of this building, the Turkish House, among a slew of other allegations. Many senators, congressmen, and New York state and city officials have called for Adams to resign, but the mayor, who has denied all charges, isn't entirely without allies. Most notably, Donald Trump recently weighed in saying,
"I think they upgraded his seat in an airplane. That's a very serious charge."
I think they upgraded his seat on an aeroplane. Alright, but rather than further politicize the case, I want to focus on the facts. So I read all 57 pages of the indictment to find out how deep the caviar hole goes. The video ended up longer than I expected, so there will be two parts. Part 1 will primarily be about how the Turkish government supported Eric Adams's mayoral campaign while showering him with gifts. In part 2, I'll go deeper into how Eric Adams abused his position as mayor to pay back the Turkish government. One last thing before we start. The indictment refers to most of the involved people with generic labels like Turkish official, employee 1, employee 2, etc. I've managed to identify these individuals using publicly available information, and in this video I plan to expose all of them. However, keep in mind that this is an ongoing case, so everyone involved is innocent until proven guilty. Cool? Cool. To understand how we got to the juicy bribery stuff, let's rewind a bit to 2015, when Eric Adams had just become Brooklyn Borough President. That year, he took 2 official trips to Turkey. His first trip was paid for in part by the Turkish consulate and in part by a Turkish university conglomerate in Istanbul, whose owner he met in Istanbul. His second trip was arranged by a senior Turkish official and a Turkish entrepreneur whose business was to introduce Turkish corporations and business people to politicians, celebrities, and others whose influence they deemed beneficial. The indictment refers to these individuals as Businessman 1, Turkish official, and the promoter. In reality, Businessman 1 is chairman of Bahçeşehir University, and Ver Yücel, the Turkish official, was actually Consul General of Turkey to New York at the time, Reyhan Özgür, while the promoter was Arda Sayiner, some influencer whose main talent seems to be taking selfies with celebrities. I understand these names might be difficult to remember, and frankly you don't need to. To make this case easier to follow, let's color code Eric Adams and his team in blue and the foreign agents in red. So Adams received free business class tickets on Turkish Airlines for both trips. Adams is required to report such trips to the New York City Conflict of Interest Board, and he did, both times. Meaning, these 2 trips were legitimate, at least in the eyes of the law. However, the same cannot be said for his subsequent trips. Following those 2 trips to Turkey, the Turkish official introduced Adams to the Turkish Airlines general manager in New York, referred to as the airline manager. We can easily find that's actually Cenk Öcel, whose home would also later be raided by the FBI. Anyway, in 2016, Adams's girlfriend purchased 2 economy class tickets on Turkish Airlines for a trip to India costing $2,286. 2 days before the flight, they got a free free business class upgrade. The full price of those tickets would have been approximately $15,000. This time around, Adams did not disclose these trips to the Conflict of Interest Board as he was legally required to do. In fact, his annual disclosure form contains a direct question about accepting gifts with a value of $50 or more and a question about gifts worth $1,000 or more. He answered no to both. The indictment alleges that the value of these gifts would have been obvious to Adams, who had extensive experience traveling overseas. I guess this was what Trump was referring to. But wait, there's more. Like, a lot more. In return for all these gifts, Eric Adams received his first political request from the Turkish official. You see, prior to these trips, Adams had maintained a relationship with a Turkish community center in Brooklyn. This center aligns with the Gulen movement, which advocates for a moderate form of Islam and has been accused by the Turkish government of attempting a coup. The Turkish official explained to Adams that this center was affiliated with a movement that was hostile to Turkey's government and that Adams should no longer associate with them if he wished to continue receiving support from the Turkish government. Adams complied. In the summer of 2017, Adams, a close relative, and a staff member traveled to Nice, Istanbul, Colombo, and Beijing. Adams accepted free business class tickets from Turkish Airlines for himself and his companions worth more than $35,000 in total. During their time in Istanbul, they stayed in the Bentley suite of the St. Regis, which would have cost approximately $7,000, but he paid less than $600. Adams started flying with Turkish Airlines even when doing so was seemingly inconvenient. For example, his girlfriend was surprised to learn that he was in Turkey when she expected him to be flying from New York to France. Adams sent her a text message explaining, "Transferring here. You know the first stop is always Istanbul." And later, when she wanted to plan a trip to Chile, Adams repeatedly asked her whether the Turkish airline could be used for their flights, making her call the Turkish Airlines to confirm that they did not have routes between New York and Chile. Has this guy ever seen a world map? Anyway, in October of the same year, Adams accepted another free business class tickets from Turkish Airlines for a flight from New York to Beijing through Istanbul and return for himself and a staff member worth more than $16,000. Once again, Adams did not disclose these gifts on his annual disclosure form. He also started concealing the benefits by creating fake paper trails with assistance from his staff. For example, in 2017, he sent a series of emails to one of his staff members asking her to pay for the free flights he and his companions had already taken, saying, "I left you the money for the airline in an envelope in your top desk drawer. Please send it to them." Sounds legit. Given the cost of his business class ticket alone, his email suggested that he left over $10,000 in cash in her drawer to, quote, send to Turkish Airlines, while records from Turkish Airlines confirm that Adams did not pay for the tickets. Things start to get interesting in 2018 when Eric Adams decided to run for the 2021 New York City mayoral election. In a text to one close supporter, he wrote, "You win the race by raising money. Have to raise money. Everything else is fluff. I have a $7 million race. I have a clear plan to raise it, and each night we are out executing the plan." And that's when he starts soliciting straw donations, mainly from Turkish sources, while continuing to accept travel gifts for his personal enjoyment. Straw donations are when one person uses another person as a front to make a donation on their behalf, usually to get around laws that limit how much money one can legally donate. In January, Adams and his girlfriend traveled to Budapest through Istanbul. His girlfriend had purchased 2 economy tickets on Turkish Airlines for about $560 each, but once again, Adams directed his staffer to ask the airline manager to upgrade the tickets to business class, which he did for free. The business class tickets would have cost more than $14,000 in total, and just like the previous 2 years, Adams would omit this one from his 2018 disclosure form as well. The staffer has been identified identified as Azerbaijani Rana Abbasova. The Azerbaijani government paid for her and a colleague to visit their country just months before the raid. She is believed to be cooperating with the FBI and was eventually fired by Adams. Her page on nyc.gov has been deleted, but you can easily still find it on archive.org. In June, a text message conversation took place between her and the Turkish promoter. Fundraising in Turkey is not legal, but I think I can raise money for your campaign off the record. How will he declare the money here? He won't declare it, or will make the donation through an American citizen in the US, a Turk. I'll give cash to him in Turkey, or I'll send it to an American. He will make a donation to you. I think he wouldn't get involved in such games. They might cause a big stink later on, but I'll ask anyways. Turns out, he does get involved in such games, because contrary to the staffer's expectations, Adams did ask her to pursue the illegal scheme. In November, businessman 1 came to New York and met Eric Adams at Brooklyn Borough Hall. At this meeting, he offered to contribute to the campaign. Despite knowing that a Turkish national cannot legally contribute to US elections, Adams directed his staffer to obtain illegal contributions from him, writing, "He is ready to help. I don't want his willingness to help to be wasted." As directed, the staffer maintained contact with businessman 1 and, as we will see later, would accept straw donations from him. In January 2019, Eric Adams and his girlfriend traveled to Turkey, Jordan, and Oman with the assistance of the promoter. The airline manager said he could only upgrade the girlfriend's ticket because the trip was arranged through others in an effort to monopolize his influence over Adams. The full price of her business class ticket would have cost $7,000. The plot thickens with some internal drama in the Turkish lobby. Later, the same year, when asking about a potential upcoming trip, Adams' staffer would write the airline manager, "He learned his lesson last time. We're writing directly to you this time." And Adams would arrange all his future Turkish airline flights through the airline manager. The Turkish Airlines is part owned by the Turkish government, allowing the Turkish government to increase their influence over him. But back to this trip, the promoter, who as we mentioned had proposed illegally contributing to Eric Adams' campaign, arranged a free hotel stay in the Cosmopolitan suite at the St. Regis, which would have cost Adams $3,000. He also received free transportation, meals, and entertainment, including a car and a driver, a boat tour to the Princess Islands, a Turkish bath at a seaside hotel, and at least one meal at a high-end restaurant. Once again, Adams did not report any of these gifts in his 2019 disclosure form. During this trip, he was also introduced to another wealthy Turkish businessman referred to as Businessman 3. In reality, this was the chairman of SBK Holding, Sezgin Baran Korkmaz. Businessman 3 agreed to contribute $50,000 or more for Adams' campaign, believing that Adams might one day become president of the United States. In subsequent messages, the promoter and Adams' staffer discussed how to funnel the businessman's money through straw donors in the US, but unfortunately for them, this businessman had legal troubles which became more public, after which Adams declined to meet with him and ultimately did not receive contributions from him. Businessman 3 was eventually arrested in Austria at the request of the United States. Adams did, however, continue pursuing illegal contributions from the other Turkish businessmen. For example, he asked his staffer to confirm businessman 1's continued willingness to support the campaign. In one text message, Adams' staffer texted him, "To be on the safe side, please delete all messages you send me," to which Adams responded, "Always do." In December of 2020, two of Adams' representatives, Employee 1 and Employee 2, asked another businessman who ran a construction company in New York City to contribute $10,000 to the campaign. The reps told this businessman that donating $10,000 would give him influence with Adams, which would help with his business interests and his community when Adams became mayor, and that gaining such influence would be more expensive at a later date. Businessman 4 is actually Uzbeki Tolib Habib Mansurov, founder of United Elite Group. When he agreed to write a $10,000 check from his company's bank account, the Adams reps informed him that he could not donate through a corporate bank account. He then offered to write a $10,000 check from his personal account, but was informed that he could not donate more than $2,000. Adams reps then explained that the businessman should direct his employees to contribute to the campaign and then reimburse the employees. The businessman and 4 of his employees made $2,000 contributions each at a fundraiser that Adams personally attended, which was held at Businessman 4's offices. Now, I mentioned straw donations earlier, but I didn't explain why they're doing this. 2 main reasons. First, as the reps explained, there's a limit on how much one person can legally donate. And second, New York City has a matching funds program that matches small contributions from city residents with up to $8 for each $1 donated, up to $2,000. In other words, legally, a single person can donate about $2,000, but less legally, said person can distribute $10,000 amongst 4 friends, and then they can each donate $2,000 and then get another $2,000 in matching funds per donation, meaning it would cost one rich guy $10,000 to benefit the campaign $20,000. The matching funds program is financed by taxpayers, and the idea behind it is to give New Yorkers a greater voice in the elections. But as you can guess, this system can be exploited. Eric Adams' campaign requested and received matching funds for these straw donations and many others. Just how much did Adams ultimately rake in from this scheme? We'll get to that number. 2021 was a big year for Eric Adams. He was running for mayor with strong support from the Turkish official. When one fundraiser failed to meet its target amount, the Turkish official said he would, quote, close the gap by obtaining funds from other sources to reach the amount he had promised. In January, the Turkish official messaged the Adams staffer asking for a meeting. The staffer asked, "What will the topic be?" "The election, that's what." His favorite topic. Turkish community support to him. "What can we do? Let's talk." "Okay." They met at a restaurant for dinner. The Turkish official committed to support the campaign. He then organized a larger dinner to plan the specifics, after which they worked with another businessman who operated another construction company in New York City. He is referred to as Businessman 5 in the indictment, and he's actually Erden Arkan, and his company is KSK Construction. It is heavily financed by Turkish Vakıf Bank, which is controlled by the Turkish state. This businessman is a prominent member of New York City's Turkish community, and he attempted to recruit others in the Turkish community, at one point saying, "May feel like swimming against the current, but unfortunately this is how things work in this country." Yeah, it's not fair how difficult it is for you corrupt fucks to steal American taxpayer money. Anyway, the day before the fundraiser, Businessman 5 sent the Turkish official a text confirming that, "As of now, the checks that reach us are $17,000. Prior to the fundraiser, KSK Construction, at the behest of Businessman 5, provided $1,250 per employee to 10 of its employees. Each of those employees contributed the amount to the campaign, except one who apparently contributed $1,200. Wait, he skimmed $50? That is hilarious. Political reports that none of those 10 employees had ever made a political donation before. The fundraiser was held in May, which Adams attended. After the fundraiser, the Turkish official texted Businessman 5 asking, "How much is the total?" And he replied, "I think I got to 22. He just left. The girls' assistants were very happy." Adams's campaign once again requested matching funds for 8 of the straw donations that were made in the names of New York City residents, fraudulently obtaining taxpayer money for their campaign. In June, Adams instructed his staffer to arrange flights to Istanbul. She wrote the airline manager, "How much does he owe? Please let them call me and I will make the payment." Airline manager says, "It is very expensive because it is last minute. I am working on a discount." "Okay, thank you. I am going to charge $50. Airline manager is a funny guy. Anyway, the staffer says, "No, that would work, wouldn't it?" "No, dear, $50? What? Quote a proper price. How much should I charge?" Smiley face. His every step is being watched right now. $1,000 or so. Let it be somewhat real. We don't want them to say he is flying for free. At the moment, the media's attention is on Eric. And so, Adams paid approximately $2,200 for 2 economy tickets on the Turkish airline for himself and his girlfriend, which were immediately upgraded to business class at no cost. The business class tickets would have cost $15,000 in total. Adams' staffer also arranged luxury lodging for them, which would be secretly provided for free. He is also asking where else they can go in Turkey. Do you have a recommendation? 4 Seasons. It's too expensive. Why does he care? He is not going to pay. His name will not be on anything either. Super. The Turkish official also arranged some nice plans for them, including a yacht tour, a car with private driver, a 3-day stay at a luxury beach resort, and a domestic flight between Istanbul and the resort. To conceal the extent of these benefits, the Turkish official suggested a price of approximately $720. The actual price of this plan would have been over $8,500. The staffer forwarded the plans to Adams, who agreed to the itinerary and the price. So the total price for this trip that Adams solicited and accepted would have been north of $23,000, but on the day of the flight he cancelled his trip and got his original payment refunded. A few days later, Adams wrote the Turkish official informing him that his campaign's chief fundraiser would soon be arriving in Istanbul and needed a hotel and transportation from the airport, which the Turkish official promptly arranged. The fundraiser's name is already in all the headlines: Brianna Suggs. On the day she was scheduled to depart to Istanbul, Adams created a group chat between himself, the fundraiser, and the airline manager. He introduced the two and wrote, "He can see about a hotel or the business class lounge." The airline manager then arranged for her to have access to the Turkish Airlines business lounge and an exclusive private suite inside the lounge, complete with a bed and free food, even though she was flying economy. The airline manager explained, "This is our suite for our VIPs, and we want you to feel yourself VIP." Later, Adams wrote, "Thanks a million, my brother," to which the airline manager responded, "Anytime, brother." Adams offered to pay for her trip, but the Turkish official responded, "Eric, no prob. It was set through Turkish hospitality services. I hope she enjoyed her stay." Adams responded, "It was amazing. Thanks for all the coordination and attention." Then the Turkish official provided a fake bill for her hotel stay. Another set of interesting messages came in July. Adams discussed raising funds from the Turkish university and explained to his staffer that he would not attend a fundraiser for less than $25K. A couple days later, she wrote the promoter asking how much money would be donated. She explained that she needed to tell Adams a net number. The promoter estimated an amount between $35,000 and $50,000. The staffer then commented that the promoter had earlier mentioned $200K. The promoter explained that they could not gather enough straw donors to achieve that amount. Hearing this, she offered to help out with that part of the scheme, and the promoter responded, then great. She replied, "From what I gathered, you'll distribute the money." The promoter confirmed with a simple yes. To me, this guy sounds like an enormous bullshitter. Anyway, the staffer informed Adams that the estimated total of donations would be $45,000. In August, the promoter, the staffer, and the president of Businessman One's Turkish University's American campus exchanged messages and voice notes explicitly discussing the plan to funnel Businessman One's contribution through the Turkish University's US-based employees. The campus president is Sinem Vatanartiran, and the campus is located literally next to the White House. In these messages, the promoter assured the staffer that those employees are US citizens and green card holders. The staffer told Adams about the plan, which he approved, knowing full well that Businessman One was a Turkish citizen and these donations would violate the law against receiving contributions from foreign nationals. On August 27, the university president messaged the staffer that the Turkish university would donate $20,000, quote, "dividing it amongst our employees in appropriate amounts." The staffer responded that if the donation is not more than $25K, then Mr. President does not participate donate in person. She refers to Adams as president since he was still Brooklyn Borough president at the time. Since Mr. President wouldn't attend in person anyway, the university president informed Adams' staffer that they would donate only $10,000. To remind them of the mechanics of the plan of concealing foreign donations, Adams wrote his staffer and the fundraiser, "We can't take money from people who are not US citizens." The staffer inquired, "What about green card holders?" The fundraiser responded, "Yes, we can," confirming the promoter's plan to use green card holders as straw donors would work. The university ultimately made its contribution on September 27th, when 3 employees contributed $2,000 each and were later reimbursed. The president and another employee also contributed $2,000 from their own funds. Now, these guys ultimately ended up being refunded by the campaign because during this period the campaign had begun winding down fundraising. But despite that, Adams still submitted a disclosure statement that falsely claimed the US-based employees were the true donors. On November the 2nd, Eric Adams won the 2021 New York City mayoral election, and it was time for his foreign backers to come asking for payback. Stay tuned for part 2.